The COVID-19 crisis is regarded as a black swan, a once-in-a-century event affecting the entire world. So what might be next? A Christian financial expert says get ready for something known as gray swan events, trends we're already experiencing. They're likely to transcend the pandemic. Crown Financial CEO, radio host Chuck Bentley.
The gray swan is an event that is obvious. It's out in the open. People see it. They know that it's there. They know it's a significant threat, but they tend to ignore it and do nothing about it.
Bentley explains this further in his new book, Seven Gray Swans, Trends That Threaten Our Financial Future. Among the seven, the global move toward digital currency and a cashless society. Bentley says the transition actually began years ago and has proceeded rapidly since COVID-19 hit.
With the threat that our actual physical currency may be tainted with the virus. And over time, the Bible warns that ultimately the Antichrist will control the world through the economy. And so I think we need to be aware that it's moving that direction rapidly and to do our part to be prepared for that.
Also, when Congress considered another multi-billion-dollar stimulus package, most Americans wanted to know how much to expect in their bank accounts or mailboxes. Bentley warns temporary relief payments could easily turn into a permanent, universal basic income program.
Those type of programs are very hard to stop. But my hope is that we will not endorse this policy to see that continue, because ultimately we can't afford it. It would be like eating sugar for your diet. It feels good for a little while, but it doesn't do good in the long term.
Bentley believes this is a result of the U.S. embracing modern monetary theory. That debt doesn't matter, so the Fed goes on printing dollars indefinitely. A similar trend in Venezuela led to hyperinflation, with an overall 5-year rate that rose a whopping 53 million%. Our national debt now exceeds the size of the American economy and is expected to total 102% of the U.S. gross domestic product by the end of this fiscal year. Bentley doubts the debt will ever be repaid, and that would lead America's creditors to inflict some painful options on the public.
Some sort of austerity program, some sort of massive tax increase, a hyperinflation that would make it easier for the government to repay their debt.
The use of biometrics and social scoring also make up these gray swan trends. Airlines are pushing for COVID-19 contact tracing and the use of smartphone apps to prove travelers have been vaccinated for the virus. And Bentley says a number of companies are already using social scoring.
Right now, if I take an Uber, not only do I evaluate the driver, but the driver evaluates me. And a private company could vote me out of their system. We're seeing that in social media right now.
We see some of this ranging from Twitter blue checks to Facebook likes and others. In China, the Communist Party uses social scoring to rate its citizens' obedience to government authority and loyalty to communist ideology. Positive scores garner favor. Those with low scores are denied jobs, travel benefits, and education. Eventually, such a system could prove dangerous for Americans unwilling to comply with acceptable speech and cancel culture norms.
Even getting things like a tax refund, being able to travel, being able to have access to certain properties or buildings or museums, I think it's coming. I think it's one we all need to have a heightened awareness of, and to be very careful about supporting the things that allow ultimate control over our free speech.
So if the birth pangs of the Seven Gray Swan events are already upon us, how can we prepare and protect our families and investments? Bentley says we must prudently chart a wise path without becoming paralyzed or reacting emotionally.
We obviously need to diversify our investments. We need to get out of debt. We need to increase our savings. We need to increase our ability to persevere through what I think are going to be turbulent times ahead.
Gary Lane, CBN News.